What's going on, guys? It's Asal, and today we are going to be talking about early access games and the effect that they have had on PC gaming over the past few years. If you aren't already aware, early access is a process that usually involves a game developer making an early build of their unfinished game available to the public for a price which is usually cheaper than the price that the finished game will be. Now, the reason that developers do this is because it allows them to make money and grow their fan base at the same time, all before the game is actually complete. So from a developer's point of view, this really is a win-win scenario. Now, on the other hand, the gamer gets to experience the game sooner than they would if they waited for the full release. They can also contribute to the development of the game, offer suggestions to the developer on how they can improve the game. They get the game cheaper than if they got it at the full release. It really sounds like everyone wins, right? But the answer is not always. First, let's look at a game that did early access extremely well: Minecraft. Minecraft was one of the first games that made early access so popular, and for good reason. I picked up Minecraft for around $15 when it was in beta, and the amount of possibilities was astounding to me, especially considering the low price. But how exactly did Minecraft do early access the way it should be done? Well, for starters, even the alpha version of Minecraft worked quite well, and it was very enjoyable just the way it was. The core features of the game, mining, crafting, and building, existed. They worked well, and they still exist today with little changes. Plus, these features worked. They didn't have any gimmicky, glitchy things. They just straight up worked. Now, new features were added to the game, but they all built on these existing mechanics: more things to craft, more to build, and more to explore. The core functionality of the game has remained largely unchanged. Now, the second thing that Minecraft did well is they actually finished their game. Now, this seems like it might be a given, but unfortunately, it really isn't. Let's take a look at some games that haven't done so well under early access, in my opinion, which realistically is most of them, because statistically on Steam, only 25% of early access games have actually reached completion, which is a very low number. That means approximately 75% of people get screwed over, if you want to think of it like that. DayZ is an open world survival game that was hugely popular when it was first released as an early access title in late 2013. In the first week alone, it had over 400,000 sales at around $30 each, so that's a lot of money right there. Now, the game had a lot of performance issues on launch, or not really launch, but when it became early access, but everyone was okay with that because after all, the game was just in early access, and that's to be expected. But fast forward 2.5 years, and DayZ still has some of the worst optimization that I've ever seen. A smooth frame rate is something that DayZ players can only dream about. It's absolutely abysmal. If you get 100 frames per second in a polished game, you might get 20 frames per second in DayZ, if that. It really is quite terrible, and the studio has made millions of dollars on this game, but they haven't done much to improve the huge performance issues that their game faces. Now, the danger of early access is that developers will get lazy as they have no real motivation to finish their game and fulfill their obligation to their supporters. Another early access title that I bought into is Cube World, and I kind of wish that I had just waited for the final release of the game, if that ever does come to us. This game was, and it still is, well optimized, and it plays great, but it lacks some depth. But that's something that future updates can't fix, right? Well, the problem with Cube World is that it's being developed by only one person, who happened to all but disappear for over a year after the game was made available in its alpha state. Now, fortunately, years later, he did actually resurface, and he seems to be back in the saddle, working on updates and tweeting his progress, but he easily could have never resurfaced. Now, the problem is that while a developer probably should complete their game, there really is nothing stopping them from going to hide in Central America on a sunny beach for the rest of their life. The last example I want to talk about is Starbound, a game that really hasn't done anything wrong except for the fact that it went into early access. Now, Starbound went into early access around the same time as DayZ, and it worked well from day one. Now, the developers have been steadily updating the game, and it is actually slated to be officially released later this year. Now, that's all fine and dandy. It's been in early access for quite a long time, but they are going to release the game. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is that many players adopted this game in early access, and they played Starbound for hundreds of hours, and then they moved on. They don't play it anymore. They've never experienced the game the way it was meant to be played. Sure, I mean, some players will come back and experience the game on release, but a lot of players have already had their fix and they want something new. So the developers made their money, people played the game got finished, and that's all fine and well. That's what people want, that's what the developers want, but the actual quality of time that most people spent playing the game wasn't what the developers envisioned it to be. Even if a developer does everything perfectly under early access, in my opinion, they are still hurting the game in their long run by giving too much too soon. It's sort of like opening all of your Christmas presents a month before Christmas and your gifts only partially work. The excitement it's just not there. I understand that developers want people to test their games, but the testing process is really something that does not and should not be monetized. So the moral of the story, don't buy into early access games. It is so easy to get burned. It promotes half-finished games and lazy developers, and it really does nothing but hurts PC gaming as a whole. Now, I'm certainly not saying that if a game has gone into early access, it is doomed to fail. That is definitely not the case, and a lot of developers have made early access work quite well. But as a whole, I think it is far too easy for a developer to burn their supporters and not fulfill their obligations to finish the game. And as a whole, I just think that early access is something that should rather be left untouched. Now, that's just about all I have to say about early access titles. Now, if you have found this video interesting, be sure to hit that like button. I always do appreciate that very much. And if you want to see more videos from me, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Everyone, this has been Asal, and I will see you guys next time.